Welcome everybody. This is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And we have a special interview today and channeling session with Karl Mollison, who many of you have already seen in some of the previous videos that we've done. We've done a whole series of channeling sessions where primarily we've contacted people who have passed, successfully transitioned and known as light beings, and then speaking about their current view of things and some happenings in their lifetimes on Earth. And then also joining me today is Kevan Trimmell. He's from Canada. He's relatively new on the scene as an SSP experiencer. And Kevan and I have done two interviews. And his first interview was with me, kind of a debut, if you will, where he came public about his experiences. And he has also been working closely with other people from that community, namely Tony Rodriguez and Elena Kapolnik. So it's been a discovery process for all of us, and in the spirit of that, Karl agreed to do this session with Kevan, where Karl will channel Kevan's higher self, with the idea that we can maybe accelerate the whole learning process here, especially for Kevan's benefit, to get to the truth of his experiences. And so I just want to thank you guys for joining me. I think this is kind of an epic and monumental episode that we're going to get into here. I'm not aware of anybody else doing anything like this. Karl did do a session with Elena, but Elena's background and Kevan's background is dramatically different in terms of the length of time that Elena's been aware and been able to process so much of what she's experienced. And I mean, there's various things. I mean, I invite people to go back and research, Elena and Kevan. And the only reason I bring Elena up is because Karl has done a session similar to this one with Elena. So anyway, a lot could potentially come out from this, but I think it's valuable insofar as that there are other SSP experiencers out there who are not public, and they will have an opportunity to view this, to see what goes on. And our hope here, and I think, and I'm going to be bold and speak for everyone, is that in the act of watching what comes forth, it could potentially be very helpful to them and help them to sort out for themselves their own experiences, and maybe get some ideas how they could heal and process their experience for their own benefit and for others' benefit. So I see this as kind of like a catalytic event that could kind of snowball into something much greater, because there are in fact huge numbers of SSP experiencers out there that are private. They're not going to be talking on YouTube channels, whatnot. So my thanks to both of you, and I'm going to let Kevan start. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, just a short introduction, and then we'll turn it over to Karl. And if there's nothing else that we need to talk about, then we'll just go ahead and start with the channeling session. And Kevan will be asking the questions to Karl, where Karl is channeling Kevan's higher self. So that's what we're going to be seeing here today. And then when we close, when the questions are done, we'll ask Karl to come back, and then we'll have a little roundtable discussion, three of us, but primarily between Karl and Kevan. I'll be the referee, which is probably not needed. So, all right. So Kevan,
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'll give a little background on myself. My name's Kevan Trimmell, and came forward about 2 months ago with my SSP experiences. And the whole reason I'm doing this is because I recognize the fact that in the program you are under mind control, between the blank slating and screen memories and all kinds of trauma and drugs and everything else that comes with it. The whole reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to misunderstand myself in terms of what I remember, and I don't want to identify with a screen memory as a real memory, and so I'm hoping to kind of cut through all the mind control and really figure out what happened to me. That's the most important thing to me right now. And I'll even go as far to say that, if it turns out that I wasn't even in the SSP and I'm just an abductee with screen memories, I am totally prepared to retract my statement saying I was ever in the SSP, because as of right now, that is what I remember. And I've talked at length about the craft, and I photographed the craft. And it was a man-made Solar Warden type craft. So I have reason to believe I was in the SSP, and then I have memories of being in the jumpsuit and being at the LOC and training on Mars. But again, if you're under mind control, or if you're an abductee and you're being abducted by greys or whatever, reptilians, they're masters of mind control. And the SSP topic is really, really trendy right now and popular. So what better way to give someone a false sense of importance, saying, oh yeah, you're in the SSP, and then you have all these screen memories. And so that's the whole reason why I'm doing this, is I want to find out what happened to me. Was I in the SSP, or am I just an abductee? So that's basically my little intro.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, so Karl, I want you to also speak a little bit, just so, because a lot of our viewers already know what you're about, what you do, what we've been doing and stuff. But for the benefit of people who may be just following Kevin or whatever, and have come up across this video, they're going to want to know why you're here.
Well, I'm here because I am a conduit, a channeler. I can channel many types of consciousness, many levels, many types of beings, and so forth. So I'm basically a psychic, medium, channeler, healer. And I do a lot of healing work one-on-one with people using a variety of approaches: emotional healing, trauma resolution, and deep, deep healing from karmic levels. And I've been gifted by Creator with a lot of insight about healing and how to go about it, and I've put together a comprehensive healing protocol. And I do a lot of remote work with that to help people to remove spirit attachments, alien implants, and mind control manipulation, the various things they're doing technologically with microchips and other forms of intrusion on people. And also the karmic history, because typically people who are abducted have been abducted many, many times throughout history, and they're being followed genetically. So there's huge trauma that accumulates from lifetime to lifetime, and that is all rumbling, and particularly when it starts up again in the current life and the person's abducted. So everyone has slings and arrows coming at them, and trauma to be resolved, and karma to be set right, to be rebalanced and healed. And this is no different than people in the secret space program or abductees who are just subjects for manipulation and experimentation. They are all traumatized because they're doing something that is not normal human activity, and they're being subjected to various types of training. It's very analogous to the regular military. A lot of what happens may not be pretty, depending on the agenda. When someone's trained to be a killer without pause, without stopping to think, this is not a normal human activity. So the people in the military often end up with soul wounds because of what they've done. Even if they never fire a round of ammunition in combat, there's still something that can happen. So I want to be of service and help, and I'm very keenly aware of the extraterrestrial problem. These interlopers, along with dark spirits, are a huge negative force in humanity. And this is the major problem we have. And this is the reason for the shift in consciousness. It's largely to get us out from under that suppression. So today my hope is that we shed a little more light on things that are happening. We've got a living witness in front of us who is part of some of the secret doings, I suspect. I don't know Kevin. We've never talked before. I watched a little bit of the first video he did with Denny, but that was all I had time for, so I don't know any more than that. And so what we're going to do is to channel his higher self. And let me just quickly explain what that is for people who are new to this concept or need to know a little more. The higher self is a part of each one of us. We all have a higher self. It is a gateway between our physical self and our soul level. It's an in-between entity that has a consciousness aspect and a specific function. It has a divine role. It is actually belonging to the divine realm, not the physical realm. And as such, it has a lot of power. It has healing power. It has a wide reach. It can find information. It can talk directly to Creator. And it has a brilliant awareness of our personal issues. And because it's our higher self, it follows us around 24/7. It's always on the scene. It's always watching and listening and wanting to help us. However, it has rules. It can't prevent us from doing things. It can't lead us in a particular direction. It has to let us have our free will and free agency. But that doesn't mean it likes all we do or sees that it's good for us. So it sends us little pangs of consciousness, little conscience. That is what our conscience is. It's the higher self ringing the phone and saying, hey, wait a minute. Not so fast. You might want to rethink that one. And also can nudge us to move us in a certain direction and help guide us on our journey, our soul path, our life plan. And when we get into trouble, it can suggest possible alternatives. But it has to do it in a very, very subtle way from the background. It can never stand out in front of us and pull us along. So we're going to channel Kevin's higher self so he can ask directly some questions of interest to him. And as his higher self is on the scene, he should be able to get some useful feedback. So that's what we're going to do. And I do a lot of higher self channeling for people because it's a tremendous way to get a jump start on personal healing and personal development. There's a lot the higher self can do for us, but we have to ask for it. It's just the same as with the Almighty, with the divine realm. God will stand around and watch us and let us flounder because we have free agency and free will choices. We have to ask if we want help, but we can. And so we can go to our higher self and ask for healing, ask to have improvements in our being and of all kinds, a better connection to our higher self and beyond to Creator. So this is open. I do a lot of this kind of work, and it's very, very rewarding. And when I do readings for people, I go to their higher self and channel it because it knows much more than I can discern psychically on my own as a psychic or a psychic medium. So this is a brilliant source of value that you have at your disposal. You just have to have a way to connect. And that disconnection is due to the usual suspects. We were downgraded by extraterrestrials. That's why we can't talk directly to God. We should be able to do that all day long. But we have been altered way back in the beginning. So, not in the beginning, but along the way. So this is what we're fighting. And this is why we have to kind of go through these hoops to sometimes bring clarity to bear.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Wonderful. And I just want, before we start, I just want to say how grateful I am to be involved with this. It's such a wonderful opportunity, coming to me late in life or whatever, but I'm just really happy that to be part of this. I mean, it's great. Just on the periphery or however you want to look at it, I'm just glad to be the fly on the wall here because this is, to me, this is monumental stuff. This is the way forward. I'm sorry that more people have not discovered this yet, but I'm not too worried about it because I think the day will come when people will look back on this and go, "Oh my gosh, look at what they did." Look where they were going with this. So I have high hopes and great expectations for what we're doing here, and I'm very happy to be involved. And I really appreciate you guys doing this. So with that, Karl, let's go ahead and we'll start, and then Karl will say when he's ready. Then you can start with your questions, Kevan. Sound
Okay.
good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and wait for a pause before you rush with your next question, because sometimes the answers can be lengthy. And it comes pretty rapid fire, but wait for a pause, and that'll be your cue to proceed with the next question. All right?
Okay. Wait for the comfortable silence. It's not an awkward silence. It's a comfortable silence. I got you. Okay.
Well, I don't know how comfortable you'll be. Well, it depends on the situation is.
Okay.
This is your higher self. You're in good hands. So don't worry about this. Relax. This is the part that's assigned to you to help you safeguard your soul and to make the most of your time as a human being and to develop your soul path. And so this is the essence of divine guidance. It's personalized and at your disposal, basically, all day, every day. So this will go well, and it'll be for your highest good. They're very careful to not cause problems. They're there to help and protect, support, guide, and do healing. But occasionally, if you're due for a wake-up call, they might weigh in with something like that. So we'll see. Just give me a couple of minutes here. I have to connect. I have to establish safety around the work. This is critically important. Many intuitive psychics reach out without a thought to safety, without a thought to setting limits. And they will bump right into an imposter and start talking, and they'll think it's a divine being, and they're being duped. So this is the problem such people have, and I've heard this again and again and again from Creator, from the archangels. More than 90% of channelers are being duped. They are not channeling who they think they are. And it's a form of mind control. It's co-opting them and diverting them and giving them enough of a reward. They're complacent and they think they're tapped in, and they're truly not. So this is a treacherous business, not knowing who to trust and who not to trust. So I don't want to go and attack a bunch of people and criticize and point fingers. What I like to do is bring forward the information I can, and then let people decide for themselves and let them compare and analyze and see what resonates for them. Because I don't want to cause anyone harm, and I understand what that could feel like, to spend years cultivating a relationship with a divine figure and then suddenly come to the realization I've been fooled all along. So I feel for all the people who are caught up in this, and we all are, because we are all manipulated all day long by the media and surreptitious mind programming. So we all have a distorted view of reality. It's that simple. So, all right, here we go.
Okay.
This is your higher self speaking. You may ask your question.
Thank you. My first question is, why did the white TR-3B fly over me at low altitude in November of 2008?
This was very much a saying hello. There were extraterrestrials on board with a long-standing connection to you, and they were wishing to further the connection and draw the parallel to the possibilities of the wonders that await in involvement with the secret space program. You were already involved at that point, but you were cycling back in time and needing to have a cementing of the relationship. So this was a way for them to make an appearance and leave a calling card, so to speak, and reestablish the communication at that point. This was to create multiple levels within the mind, to have much prior experience and training remain covert and hidden from conscious awareness, but another level to cultivate the interaction and interrelationship so you could be reawakened in such a way by being again in contact with a representative from the program, and then have a debriefing or a kind of check in the field, so to speak, to be sure you were continuing to behave and be under their control. So this was one of the ways they were getting your attention.
Okay. My second question then would be, why did the craft return in 2015 and fly over at night at a higher altitude, but still all lit up, very obvious, flew over the house, and then came back a second time?
This was, again, a reunion. And you, in fact, were abducted during that experience without conscious awareness. And this was to do a more intensive exploration of your experiences and your thinking, and to see what you had been doing and what attitudes you currently were holding about the program and your prior work and your exposure to them and your potential future choices. So they were doing a checkup and a security screen, and this was the purpose. They left the awareness of the craft in your memory as the link to keep the permissible level of awareness in place, to know it is real and it is important. And this relates to a layer of subterfuge they give all such members of their program, the feeling of being within a very special cadre, hand-picked and groomed for high-level service to humanity, trusted with the greatest of secrets and the greatest of roles in society as guardians and protectors, and in the vanguard of a special fleet to safeguard the planet and to be heroes. So this is the cover story that is used, all of which is untrue. The purpose is the exact opposite. It is a subterfuge. And so this is the reason for such levels of secrecy. It is not simply to protect the needed covert nature so as to not disturb the populace or to create political problems in then being pressured to share precious technology more widely, and then the United States would lose its supremacy in having a special relationship with the extraterrestrials. It is strictly to use humans for training to fight against humans. And this is the real and true reason for secrecy about this entire program. This is a program to generate trained killers. So we know these words are quite harsh, but they are being said for a high purpose, and they are not said with the intention to cause harm, although they will be disturbing to many. This is quite unfortunate, but there is a higher need, and the higher need is for truth to come forward. So this is not pretty, and it is regrettable for the advancement of humanity to reach levels of spiritual sophistication comparable to the technological sophistication of the extraterrestrial interlopers would be indeed a divine unfoldment of great magnitude. This is where things will be one day, but through the power of mind and consciousness without need for advanced technology whatsoever. The mind can create all it needs when sufficiently developed and in tune with Creator. So these are still lower level beings amongst you, despite their seeming technological prowess, which indeed is considerable. So the covert aspects of your service remain hidden within the mind, and this is seen to as part of their control of things. So all are trained and all are followed and checked in on at intervals to monitor their containment, and all are recallable in the future. And that, in fact, is the plan down the line, to call them up once again and put them into service in battle.
Okay, my third question is, what transpired between me and the two remote influencers this June, and why can't I remember that interaction fully?
This, again, is an example of manipulation. This was a mind-controlled interaction. Your ability to remember this, again, had a dual purpose: to keep you aware that you are still in service, but to not allow you to access all that transpired. And there is good reason that the suppression is done, because it serves them and does not serve you. If you think about this, it is quite logical on its face. What needs to be kept in darkness that is of a divine nature? The things done in darkness always serve the darkness. The negative forces wishing to work against love and light in one way or another, and the risk of exposure is very telling. If you cannot do what you are about in the open, freely observable to all, then you have some ulterior and dark purpose that is self-serving and is working against someone else's best interest. And so there are some exceptions, of course, in the keeping of adult matters away from impressionable children and so forth. That is the cover story here, that humans are fragile, humans are unsophisticated, and so many prejudices exist and unnecessary fears, as the story goes, that to suddenly thrust an alien being into their midst would totally unhinge them and traumatize them severely. nor could they be relied upon to function normally and accept extraterrestrials as compatriots and take things in stride. This might be true up to a point, but humans are highly flexible and adaptable and would adjust readily to such an eventuality if it were done for a high purpose with a benevolent intent. But this is not the case here, where the interlopers are all negative. Every extraterrestrial functioning within Earth plane at the current time are working against humanity, and they are all in collusion with one another in a grand extraterrestrial alliance to destroy humanity. They have manipulated humanity for thousands of years in many, many ways, exploiting them, using them as slaves, and using them as guinea pigs to manipulate the genome, to learn from them, and to be of service, much as you would raise cattle. And so they no longer wish to have this plaything, but now are more interested in the elimination of human, having gained always maintain a colony for further study, but the planet has other value for them, and they would just as soon eliminate humans. This is being prevented by divine realm up to a certain point, but humans must do the rest. So your interest in understanding your history here is central to this dilemma, for you are responding to the spiritual core that represents your true self, and a part of you is rebelling inwardly at what has happened and the things you have been subjected to, and your desire for the truth is very much a high and noble yearning within to be fully in alignment once again with Creator's energy. And this is denied to you when you are under their thrall and being totally subjugated in a type of kidnapping scenario where you are taken from your normal life and co-opted to be altered and subverted for a dark purpose. This is a huge disruption of the divine connection that normally exists and sustains an individual, and is a serious breach of the divine purpose you are wishing to express. The soul itself has a plan and many, many intentions. And when things disrupt the soul purpose, the consequences can be very severe. There is a huge inner trauma that results, and the recognition within that it is happening can cause much distress, and is also a source of wanting to break free and reconnect once again. And this is the inner yearning of the soul, and is why you are here talking with us and wanting truth. So we are giving truth quite freely here, come what may. for we know who we are, and we know what you represent as a physical extension, and it is not in alignment with a dark extraterrestrial force wishing to dupe humans and subjugate them further. So you have seen through their plans, and you have been highly manipulated and subjugated all along the way. But a part of you has maintained the link to us and higher realms. This is the part that is coming forward now, and why you are not simply being complacent. The curiosity you have is based on a higher level of awareness, and is owing in part to us as well to reinforce this. So as you on a soul level seek to be within the light and in alignment, we add energy to this and help give you further support and encouragement. So this is what was taking place. There was a check-in, a reassessment, and a reprogramming session with the intention to begin further subjugation to snuff out positive impulses that were emerging, because this is your true soul desire, and this must be prevented at all costs from their perspective. So you were being subjected to further manipulation and a further suppression of memory to keep the darkest secrets well out of reach, and to keep you from taking any action that could result in exposing your history and to raise questions.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have is, I'd like to know the purpose of the interaction I had with that strange little man in North Bay in March of 2009. I'd like to know who he was and what kind of entity he was.
This was an alien hybrid, and he was charged with following you and interacting with you to do a mind probe and assess the memories you had recovered spontaneously, if any, and to check the status of things, to see that you were staying within the guidelines and not disclosing any information that could be a complication for maintaining the secrecy they need to operate. And so he was interacting with you as a field check, so to speak, to see how you were doing and to monitor and reassess things, and also to give you further reinforcement of prior instructions. And this was done telepathically and through subliminal mind control manipulation, which is its most powerful when in the presence of an actual being beaming this to you. And so this was also an outing for the hybrid in question to gain further experience interacting in various environmental settings, and doing so with a compatriot who could be trusted in the form of you yourself. So in a sense, ironically enough, you were his safety net and you were his protector. So if he were questioned and suspected of being non-human, this would be dangerous for him. And so he was relying on you as well to be a kind of bodyguard for him. So this is very telling because it shows that the extraterrestrials are not all powerful and their control is possible mostly by not having full awareness of their target subjects. And so this is the risk for them. If they are discovered in the act of doing what they do, the resistance would be much, much greater. And in particular, they also know that human can summon powerful forces if they put their minds to it. They do not fully appreciate this might be of divine origin, but such is very much the case. So this is something you can call on as well when you are in a situation like you were and subjected to manipulation mentally. You can appeal to higher self and to Creator to assist you to resist this and to push back, not with the intention to harm, but with the intention to stand your ground and to be impervious to harm. And this can be done. You have much more power than you think. And this is true of all of humanity. And this is the highest and foremost purpose for this discussion. You have come forward in part at our urging and encouragement among the three of you participating in this interview to be spokespersons for the divine, to send the message to all. Every human must awaken. Every human must rise up and say no to the interlopers and to say yes to Creator's love. That is the first and most powerful step that can be taken to champion humanity and the cause of the light. All have a voice and all have a say in everything that happens, and all are interconnected. Our welfare depends on the next person and then the next person beyond them. We are all in this together, and we all must stand together and stand strong against any foe wishing harm, wishing to drag us down and work against the cause of love and light. This will eventually serve them as well, because these beings are truly lost. They themselves have been so subjugated by intervention on the part of dark spirit beings, dragging down both humans as well as the extraterrestrial races among you. This is why they are so dark. They need rescuing to a much greater extent than humanity. Even if they were to destroy every last living human, it would just be the end of this particular experiment. But the humans would live on as light beings and would simply take up elsewhere and continue on. And the legacy remaining for those extraterrestrials would be a quite dark one indeed. for they would have the karmic burden of their handiwork, and this would hang over them like a dark cloud for ages. And so the rescue of humanity is a rescue for all. All are at stake in one way or another in what happens now. The solution will come from humans and not from any extraterrestrial source, but from humans partnering with the divine. And so when you were with this strange fellow, your impulse to resist the manipulation was a divine awareness and divinely inspired within you. And this is an example of the power you have. Most people involved with the extraterrestrials working alongside and as members of the secret space program will automatically fall in line and acquiesce and never whatsoever. They will do everything they are told and will simply not even form an idea of opposition. So this is a very interesting experience representing the dynamic involved here. When the agenda is secret and held below conscious awareness, they have much more power to control and manipulate. The answer for all is greater awareness and an opening up of awareness to see the truth and to see that love is greater than the darkness, and that love is the answer and the way to true happiness and joy. All the technological marvels in the universe are a shallow comparison to the joys of love. To have technology in a joyless world without love, without compassion, would be a very sterile and harsh and devastatingly negative experience. This is the choice before you. And so we, on the divine level, are cheering for love in all ways, at all times. And this is what you are seeking personally with the yearnings of your soul. And this is no different in terms of being aware of personal preservation, for one must love oneself as well. And this is natural and supported divinely and is the first order of business. You cannot love another without loving the self first and thereby have love to give. The love comes from Creator. That is its true origin. So those who can love are in alignment more than those who cannot. This is a true test of who can be trusted and who cannot.
Okay, thank you. Prior to coming forward, I was receiving some counseling sessions with Dr. Dream, and he asked me to take a photograph of myself, who he sent to a psychic friend, and he gave her no background as to who I was. He only told her my first and last name and sent her the photo, and she said the following. She said that my energy signal was scrambled. Either I'm trying to hide myself or someone else is trying to hide me, and that she kept hearing he needs to stay under the radar. So my question is, in terms of staying under the radar, is that what they want, or is that what the divine realm wants for me in terms of my own personal well-being.
This is very much what the extraterrestrial alliance wants to happen. They want you to be invisible to the more spiritually aligned. They see all spiritual people as their enemy, for they know they have some special abilities, and the major concern is that when people are very highly in alignment spiritually, they are much less vulnerable to the manipulation and mind control. And so this is the major concern they hold. And so such people are a threat because they may see through their plans and mount a counter force of some kind. So they are very much wanting you to stay suppressed and contained and to not divulge what you know. And this serves them. It does not serve you. So this is a discord in your energy, and this is what the psychic was perceiving. The divine realm does not wish to see anyone suppressed or subjugated in any way, but rather the opposite, that all should let their inner light shine forth to be a beacon to others and to be a force for the light to spread love and joy in everything they do. This raises everyone up, including that individual. This is Creator's plan for there to be an abundance of light and joy that expands endlessly by growing and spreading and being endlessly creative in ways it can be shared and bestowed on others. And learning and growth and creativity applied to all manner of things and projects and plans and endless possibilities in the multi-dimensional universal playground. This is the plan for the light and the light beings, who are all an extension of source consciousness. So each human that you know, including yourself, is a living, breathing part of Creator. This is what makes you special and differentiates you from the plants and lower animals. You are truly divine. Everything is a divine creation, but some things are separate and some are an actual part of the embodiment of Source Creator. The latter is true for human. So this is not a blasphemy. This is divine truth, but has been suppressed by the overseers from the extraterrestrials monitoring all human activity and largely in control to rewrite history, to create history for their purposes, to change spiritual teachings, to remove key knowledge, and to keep humans subjugated as helpless supplicants, in effect begging for divine help, when in fact they know this will give them little. To obtain divine help, one must feel worthy, and one must believe in the divine and one's standing to achieve the assistance. This is all taken away by subjugation, and this is true of those within the secret space program as well. When they are cut off from their history, they are being denied an awareness of who they are and who they have become. And this is a violation of the divine purpose for life. To take life from another is never divine and is always a karmic dilemma that has implications for the perpetrator as well as the victim. So this is an extreme intervention that will have many, many dire consequences for the intruders. And human has a responsibility as well to rise above this and to seek solutions. It cannot be done by humans alone working on their own. The forces arrayed against you are simply too powerful. You need divine help with this. And this is what is coming forward here. And so by following the yearning of your soul to break free, you are now here today talking with us and hearing from the divine realm directly about the best path for all to take, not only to help you yourself, which is our first responsibility, but to extend and open this message to all humans in simply reaching to the divine and inviting a divine partnership to obtain healing and guidance and protection. And this is your birthright as a part of Creator to grow and prosper and spread the light. And this you are doing, and this bold initiative will plant many, many seeds and bring forward great future possibilities that otherwise could not have happened. The more people who come forward and choose the light, the faster things will reach a critical mass, and then the darkness will be forced out. This is what needs to happen. It starts with each person, and this need not be a public declaration, but a winning within the heart where the light is allowed to grow and to beam within. And this is enough. There needs to be a vote cast, so to speak. It is no different than going to the polls to choose one's leadership. Each act is simple and is legal, and no one can stop you. But the vote has power, and in aggregate chooses your destiny and the destiny of all of humanity indirectly. It is the same with a divine outreach. You need not appear on television or go to a mountaintop and have a spotlight on you and paint a gigantic sign with your declaration of intention. It can be a truly private undertaking, but it is necessary nonetheless, because God is listening and will do what you request or choose to not request. This is the test for all of humanity. Will you stand strong? Will you look forward and upward to love and light to show the way and choose to be in alignment, or choose to serve the darkness and the dark doings of the interlopers who wish to have power and control over all humanity? And so you are taking a stand here and opening up further to these possibilities. And you always have the choice. It is not forced on you and will not be. That is why it counts. That is why it is important. The vote is important because it is freely given. If there were a true demagogue who was acting as a dictator, voting would be irrelevant. So that simple freedom you still enjoy has great power, and you can use your power and help all of humanity.
Thank you. Thank you. In closing, my last question would be, why was I selected to become a member of the SSP, and like, why me? Why not someone else, so to speak?
The reason you were selected was because of your lineage. You have been in the program for a long time, so to speak. And by this we mean a series of alien abductions to study you and cultivate the genetics you represent in your particular lineage. They wish to capitalize on the uniqueness within the human genome. This is the primary purpose of their manipulation. It is to see what they can learn and then copy it and use it to their advantage within the robotic greys and their hybrids. And this is to serve the greys in particular as a kind of reward, as they are the minions of the Arcturians and are semi-autonomous in having such advanced artificial intelligence and therefore awareness. They wish to be able to reincarnate and have that promise of immortality. This is their grand quest. It is an illusion, and it will not be possible. The soul is a creation of the source creator itself and cannot be reproduced by any technology. So this is a major intrusion and manipulation of human for a kind of alien folly based on selfishness and an unawareness of divine principles, and acting at the most primitive and self-serving level. So this entire interaction with humanity has had much more darkness and detriment to human than anything that could be positive. It is because these beings are so corrupted within that a benefit will not be forthcoming. They will not allow humans to gain unless they gain more. It is that simple. If you get something from them, you can be sure they will take something greater away from you. This is a warning to all. They cannot be trusted, and this is a perfect example where you have been manipulated time and time and time again, and many times leaving trauma in their wake that you suffered from during an entire lifetime, and also in witnessing the plight of family members being manipulated in the same way. So because of this long history in knowing you from lifetime to lifetime, this has allowed them as well to develop a certain rapport with you and a certain level of trust on both ends. You have been corrupted each time with mind control manipulation and induced to make various pledges and promises to them to assist them in. This is never freely given. It is always coerced through mind manipulation to make the human subject complacent and to instill a false feeling of security that the alien beings are concerned with their welfare and wishing to help. And various subterfuges are used to impart those ideas. For example, by showing scenes of future Earth cataclysms and war, and telling the human, this is your destiny, we need your help to change this and turn things around. And in the face of such a decision, few would say no. So you have nothing to feel guilty about whatsoever that you are caught up in their web. All humans are caught up in their web, some more personally aware than others. So you are simply more personally aware, whereas the average person is still unaware that they are in the web and the spider is nearby, and all are in that same boat together. So you have special attractiveness to them because they have a long history in studying you and understanding you. And so you were indeed handpicked for this opportunity as they would see it. And it was not something that would serve you, but rather drag you further into subjugation with a greater and greater karmic obligation to work your way out. And this is the unfortunate consequence of their doings, that all of their victims have, as a consequence, a karmic legacy created by what happens to them and whatever they do in service to the darkness. There must be some repayment and rebalancing. This need not be a tremendous task, but it is the danger for all who do serve them, and where the consequences grow beyond simply interfering with people's lives with little conscious awareness. There are more dire things in the genetic alteration that stands in all the future, and then beyond to the changing of lives through abductions and the disappearance of many used for various purposes, taken to other locations and never return, and many killings as well, done for reasons of maintaining secrecy and as reprisals for those who escape their grip, who may know too much. So there are many dark deeds, and every human caught up in them will have to repay their karmic debt as a participant, even though they have been manipulated and coerced in all cases to participate in the first place. This is simply the law of karma. It will not yield favors. It will only be relentless in seeing that what is out of balance must be rebalanced, and by those themselves who cause the imbalance. So we are saying only here there are large stakes, but this is not impossible to fix. In fact, the opposite is the case. In spite of our warnings and our dire pronouncements, we know that the light is winning, and that is why things are ramping up and getting very overheated in all that is taking place around the planet. There is a great level of discord being fomented everywhere. This is part of the plan to create chaos as much as possible, and then to use the disclosure movement to come out into the open about alien presence, with the story that the aliens are here to serve and rescue. And this will be embraced by the majority of people because of mind control spread throughout society, and the complacency it causes will allow things to move forward from there to greater trust and giving them greater authority. This will be an entirely false operation with a secret purpose to gain a more direct control of things and have an even greater ability to control and manipulate everyone. And this will lead to human destruction if allowed to take place. So this could not be a more serious matter. It goes far beyond whether there is an interesting military alliance that has gained ground because of alien technology, and it is time to clue people in to this wondrous undertaking. This is an entirely sinister interaction and involvement with the direst potential consequences for humanity. So we are not saying these words for the purpose of having people go out and arm themselves and storm the barricades and take over the government. We do not want killing. We do not want mayhem. We only ask for everyone hearing these words to search their heart and make a decision. Do you stand with the light And if you do, then reach out to the highest source of light you believe in, whatever form that might be, whether God or Allah or Krishna. It matters not. What matters is that you wish a divine future. And if you want that, ask the divine to help humanity do the best it can to bring that divine world into reality. That is all. That is all you need do as individuals, and it will matter.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time, so thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we ask Karl to come back.
Sorry, world. What can I say? My goodness. Well, I've known about these things, so this isn't a shock to me. I am not comfortable yet in having let that all come out so publicly, but there it is. So we'll just have to let this be and see what develops from here. I know this goes against a lot of people's plans and hopes and dreams and wondrous expectations that they have. And I wish that were so. I would rather be on their side. But I talk to the divine realm regularly, and it is loving energy. There's no question to me whatsoever that it is all about love. And from that perspective, a lot of what has happened to people like yourself, Kevin, it's not defensible. It's very fishy on the surface. And it's a truism that whatever is done in the dark will eventually come to light. And most of the time, those things turn out to have something really wrong with them. So I think the burden is on the people who believe otherwise to defend all that's happened. Because there's legions of people who've been abducted and whose lives have been altered in very, very unpleasant ways as a result of those experiences. Now, what is that all about? Who is that helping? It's not helping humanity. Trust me, it is not. So when I work with people who have that history, I see it. I see their karma. I see their past lives they've had. And they witness terrible things. The husband is watching his wife being, having sex with a hybrid being or a reptilian, and is helpless, and is traumatized. And this is the kind of thing that happens very routinely for people, because they're not treated as sensitive, loving beings who have, a divine capability to appreciate right and wrong and care about one another and have compassion for one another. These beings are faulty, and they're whole. They can pretend, and they can send you emotion, and it's not coming from them. They're creating that within you, that feeling of love and acceptance and so on. It's a manipulation of you. It's not really even genuine coming from them. They don't love you. They're manipulating you to feel like you're being loved, that sort of thing. So it's very unfortunate.
So Kevin, what is your? I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Me too.
That was incredible. I definitely allowed myself to open up and prior to this and even during the session, I was saying in my head, like, I do give permission for my higher self to come through. And I thought that was important, that I actually give permission for my higher self to come through. And I feel like my higher self did come through, and it was absolutely amazing to me what came through. And I know that I'm going to have to review this once it's recorded. I'll have to review this again and probably listen to it a couple times for it all to kind of sink in, because I think a lot of information was shared, and it was like multi-layered. It applied to myself, it applied to others like myself. So it's going to require a couple listenings, I think, before it really sinks in. But just on the surface, I thought that was amazing. Yeah.
So was okay, so we got an answer about your interaction with the strange little man in the restaurant, and he wanted to go back to the room with you, and all. So what do you think about the response that you got from your higher self on that subject?
Well, it's good to get that confirmation, because even though it was a physical experience and I had witnesses and everything, it's still nice to get that confirmation once again that really did happen the way I thought it happened. And that he was, like, my intuition was right when I looked at him and I knew he didn't belong. And I got freaked out because I could tell that he was an alien and he doesn't belong in our or I guess a hybrid, but still doesn't belong in our ecosystem. And the way just the way I felt in that moment, it was such an animalistic reaction of fight and flight.
Yeah.
Sorry, you know what I mean?
Fight or flight, yeah.
Yeah, geez, they got to come up with a better way of phrasing that. That's a tongue twister to me. But you know what I mean? That whole reaction was so real in that moment that, like, I wanted to run. Like, I wanted to run because I got freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, that's an alien. And my reaction was to run. And then that's why I headed for the coffee shop, because I knew I had to get somewhere safe. So it's just nice to get that confirmation that my intuition in that moment was dead on. He was an alien hybrid. He didn't belong, like in our ecosystem, or standing on the main street there in North Bay around civilians, around innocents, children, seniors. I'm sorry, he doesn't belong. He had a lethal intention, and he did not belong, and he had no right to be here. And it's just good to know that my gut feeling was right.
Did you also feel willing to protect him if that situation arose?
What's weird is, like, when I remember when the waitress questioned him and said, "You need money to be in here. You need to order something," and he kind of just looked all confused. I did feel sorry for him in that moment, because that's she kind of she called him out on it, just like Karl describes there. That I did step in that moment, and I felt, and I realized that, because at that point I knew he was an alien, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm the only one that realizes what I'm dealing with here, so now it's my responsibility not only to protect him, but to protect everybody else. And I don't really know what he's going to do here if he gets too freaked out and starts to panic. If this waitress tries to kick him out of the restaurant or something, or the manager comes out, and you know what I mean? Like, if there was an argument between a manager and an ET, I knew I had to step in that moment, so that's why I ordered him a tea, just so he could stay in the restaurant.
See, you could have said, I think you should call 911. This guy looks, fishy to me. He's up to no good.
And then there would have been a momentary phase shift, and they both would have disappeared.
well, and here's note the sad thing is, and I say this with respect to local police and all that. Most of them are damn good fellows and really brave people. But I don't think they could have. I don't think they could have dealt with that situation, honestly.
No, they couldn't have, and who knows what resources that little guy might have had, in terms of, some sort of a more of a weapon-based, mind consciousness manipulation. So it's not an advisable thing to do. But what I'm reacting to is that impulse is probably the wisest choice from a human perspective, but it probably had some mind control too. He was using you as his bodyguard, in a sense, is kind of what came out. And so he knew how to get you to come to his defense, too. And one thing I want to jump in, Denny, and comment here, because I think it's a very important insight and revelation that I'm getting impulsed, maybe from Kevin's higher self. I don't know if it's my guidance, but it suddenly dawned on me that this big story that we've been told for years, humans aren't really ready to accept ETs being here, and the stock market will crash, and all these things will happen, and people will question their religions, and chaos will break out because we won't believe in our institutions anymore, and so forth. Well, who made them that way? That they could be undermined by a simple alien showing up. And what is that fear, really? And here is what the insight is. The fact that we would be so fearful of them appearing and showing up in person is because we have an inner knowing and awareness intuitively. These are dangerous people. These are dangerous beings because we've all bumped into them again and again throughout history. So there's an inner awareness about this. ETs can't be trusted. It's true. And we've seen it with our own eyes before. And that's what I think this natural fear is. Not, oh my gosh, look, wow, isn't this cool? A UFO coming from another planet. Oh, hi, come in and let me show you how I live and tell us all about it. And, that's not the first impulse, is it? It's the opposite. And what I've learned in all my work working with clients is when they have a deep, dark fear about something, it's almost always the case there's something real behind it, including the people that the mainstream would view are mentally unbalanced. Their fears about things usually have a certain logical basis. They may be misinterpreting it or getting it twisted a little in their mind, but there's something deep and dark down there. So I think this is how we recoil so much with the idea of saucers landing. We've seen it before. We've lived through Atlantis and all the times when there were battles here on the earth. So,
speaking to the issue of adaptability, though, I think it's I don't know why this word's coming up, but I apologize, but we're humans have the trump card here. Apologies to the politics of them.
Yeah.
But not only can we adapt to aliens, but we can also respond with forgiveness for all of this. And that is the trump card. That's how this whole thing comes crashing down to an end without anybody having to get guns and run anywhere. That's what the humans are capable of, ultimately capable of doing that. Is, like Karl says, partnering with the divine realm and putting this whole nasty episode to a finish. And that's what humans are capable of. And all they need to do is to realize that they are capable of it and then do it.
Yeah, and like Karl mentioned, that in that moment in the restaurant, I was under some divine guidance, and it kind of builds on what you just said, Denny, because think about it. At that point, I had no idea I'd ever been in the SSP. In terms of my training, I wasn't conscious of any of my prior training or experience. And you got to think, in that moment, even though this guy's following me and I'm scared to death, I'm literally shaking, I still was capable of feeling compassion for him in that moment because he looked cold, for one thing. He looked very cold. And that's why I ordered him a hot tea, because I wasn't sure, maybe he was homeless or something, even though he had nice clothing. Maybe he got kicked out of somewhere and he didn't have his wallet and ID on him, and he looked cold. And, in that moment, I was still nice to the guy, and I ordered him a tea so he could warm up in the restaurant. And, and yet my gut is telling me that he has a lethal intention and he might be an ET, and and yet it speaks to what you just said. Like, not only was I able to adapt in that moment and take it upon myself to deal with the situation to protect everyone else and myself, but I still felt compassion in that moment. And that, like you said, that's the trump card right there. Yes, it's the adaptability, but then also the compassion, because we all have this divine connection.
Absolutely,
humans,
you're acting as your divine human self. That's what makes us special, and it comes from above. We're in the direct line, and we're plugged in when we're not messed with too severely, and that lifeline's cut, and they work at that. And this is how many people get dark spirits in their energy as attachments. They come in the night, they pretend to be lost, and they need help. Can you help me? And then your subconscious will invite them in because it's compassionate. And then they're in, and then they can start to cause problems. So they take advantage of our vulnerability because we're loving and we're kind and we're generous and we're open until we learn it's too dangerous and so on. But there's nothing wrong with that. And in an ideal world, we wouldn't have to contend with evil. So that's the test. We're in that environment right now where we've got this duality. And all these forces, all these extraterrestrials very much represent that extreme end of the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, next.
How are we gonna? What act is gonna follow this? I can't think of anything that. And what's interesting is that as we've gone through this series of channeling, the last one we did was Barbara Bertolic, and it was kind of like each time the bar's been raised a little bit in terms of the direct revelation. It's like, it was kind of like, back when we were doing the Eisenhower, Forrestal, and the Secret Service agent, there was a lot of these issues that were inferred, or like it wasn't really directly spoken that, like, there is no, and it was blatant this time. There are no ETs interacting on the Earth plane that have good intentions for humankind. Period. It was stated unequivocally in this session. And I don't know, we've had things approaching that from various angles in the past. I mean, I have to go back and do a survey, which I'm not going to do, but it was very directly stated this time. So, it's like the gauntlet's been, thrown out there, I think, for anybody who's listening to this. That's the information that needs to be digested right now in terms of worldview, as Kevan aptly put, BS. A belief system has been challenged here, maybe several, and so there, I have yet to see any glaring inconsistencies in the messages that we've been getting through these channeling sessions. And for me, this one is just building upon the previous ones. It's not a departure. But my biggest hope, I am interested in the global message and everything, but mostly for your own benefit, Kevan, since you're putting yourself out there in this case, in this instance, you're going public in a way that, for some people looking in on this, they're going to say, well, this isn't safe. What are you doing? So so kudos to you. But that's true for Karl. It's true for me as well. But it's we're in a war. And thankfully we don't need a gun to fight this war. We need to stay true to the divine guidance as best we can, and let fear do what fear wants to do, and we've got other things in front of us, and
yeah.
So anyway, I'm interested if you have any closing comments, Kevan, before we go, and then Karl, if you want to wrap, you could follow on that, and I'll say a couple things, and then we'll call it a day. We're getting pretty close to 2 hours here, so.
Sure, yeah. I'll do my closing comments. I think basically what I'd like to say at the end here is we're definitely we're in an information war and a war on consciousness, and it's gotten so advanced that you're right. We're past the point of rioting and going out and overturning our local government, like a war of independence type of situation. It's actually a war on consciousness. It's very, very advanced. It's happening. There's a physical aspect to it, but then there's also a spiritual aspect. It's a spiritual war. So that would be part of how I want to end it. But really, lastly, it's something my philosophy teacher said to me in high school, and he said, there's the way things ought to be and the way things are. And in terms of the the belief system around ETs being benevolent and like the ETs coming here to save us and they want to serve humanity and they're here to help us. Again, because we're loving, compassionate beings, we want it that way. We want, we're not hateful beings, so we don't want an enemy necessarily. So we want to believe that they're good. And I think so many people, they want to believe that these advanced beings with all their technology and space travel and everything else, we want them to be good because that's the way it ought to be. But in actuality, it's not the way things are. So that would be my closing statement.
Yeah, very eloquently put, Kevan, very eloquently put. You're wise beyond your years, and I feel that, and I see it, and I see your energy, and I see the inner light you have. So that's why I'm here talking with you, because I know you are coming from a place of truth and seeking that, and that's what I'm about. So let me just say one further thing. This is an example of what can come from the higher self. It's a font of knowledge and information, but it's also for self-help. And so I do a lot of work helping people in channeling their higher selves, as I've mentioned before. Another thing that I'm doing is to do some self-healing work with the deepest level of the mind, the deep subconscious, to channel the subconscious and doing healing imagery. And this I've been able to help clients with who can't connect to those deep levels. And it turns out we are all disconnected from the deepest reach of our mind. And that's the part that looks at the Akashic records of all these past lives and worries about them. But it can't warn the executive level up in our consciousness. And we can't get down there. And going to a therapist, going to hypnotherapists won't reach that level. This is the only way I'm aware of to do that. So I've helped other people who have been in the secret space program and have trauma memories rumbling deep down below and been able to go in and help to resolve that and give them some healing benefit. So I just wanted to put that little comment in there that there's always a way forward. There's always a way to get out from under anything that's happened. Everything can be healed. Everything can be fixed. I know this because I work with the divine realm directly every day in helping people with all sorts of difficulties. And this is different, definition-wise, but not so different than any other perpetrator-victim situation. And many people use their consciousness for an ill purpose. And we can do that ourselves when we lash out at someone and leave scars. And when we purposely send directed consciousness, like curses and so on, those things are real. So these are all healable things. And it's true for the extraterrestrial involvement as well. So there's always a way to make things better, and the divine realm helps a lot with that. And I can help bring them to bear and help people with this kind of history, multiple abductions and so on, to start to get them to a place where they have safety. And that's a real accomplishment.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you both. And I'm even more convinced of what I said earlier about this being monumental and something that people will probably grab and look back on and go, oh my gosh, these guys were really breaking new ground here. That's the way it feels anyway. And also I usually don't do this, but I'm going to do it because it's important. I want to keep doing this. I want to keep doing this kind of thing with Kevan. I want to do this kind of thing continue my series with Karl. And I'm blessed because I'm in a position now where about half of my interviews are coming to me rather than me having to go out and people are coming to me to be interviewed rather than me seeking them out. And some of the seeking that I've been doing has been very successful lately for people that I do want to do interviews with, very fortuitous things. But I'm going to make a little pitch for a financial help because I'm doing this full time. I no longer have a 9 to 5, And so if you can see it in your heart to make a contribution, you can go to whyisthistrue.com, and there's a donation page there. And it is needed. I need money to live on. I have bills to pay. I have a wife who's supporting me right now, and I would like to return the favor in some measure and keep things going here. So that's my little plea. I usually don't do this kind of thing on my videos, and Karl can attest to that. But it's important. I think this work's important. I'm going to keep doing it no matter what. But it does need funding. So I'm going to throw that out there. I hope that's not a buzzkill. But anyway, no matter what happens, we'll be back with more. Karl and I have got a list of subjects, including channeling with Creator series that we're doing. We're going to be embarking on the third one here pretty soon. I'm collecting up viewer questions for that, and I imagine that Kevan and I will probably be regrouping at some point, if nothing else, to review all the information that came out during this interview, this channeling series, which is pretty profound. And I agree with you. You know, going back and listening to it again, you go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't pick up on that." So
yeah,
anyway.
I have to listen to it about 100 times, I think, and then I'll feel like, okay, I got a grasp on everything.
Yeah. And so everything's on whyisthistrue.com, and I actually take these interviews and I make MP3 files, which you can download directly from the website. So if you don't want to watch it on YouTube, you just want to listen to it while you're doing housework or commuting or whatever, you can grab the MP3 files and listen to these interviews right off that website. And plus
that's a great idea.
Yeah, and plus I have the members page where I do a little write up maybe once a week or so after the live stream, and there I'm gonna there's stuff that I'll bring up or talk about that I don't put on Facebook, and you're not going to see on the interviews. So if I try to withhold my opinion. I'm not very good at it most of the time, but I mostly want to feature the interview subjects, and I just want to facilitate that. But people do ask me questions, and I do have an opinion, and that's where you'll find it on the members page. So you just put your email in. It's free. You can go there, and about once a week I'll have like a little newsletter with something in there, or a video, or some links to something that we did that's not in the descriptions. And but anyway, this has been. I've been really looking forward to this interview with you two guys together. There's so many facets of what was done here today that has not been done yet, especially from the SSP side of things. So tell your friends and family, check this out, because to me it's a big deal. There's big, very important information, very critical insights coming through. This is going to be helpful for people like Kevan, who are not public, but need help, need guidance, need to start connecting the dots. So I really appreciate you guys doing this with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. All right. And thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.